In this video, I'm talking about 7 ways to start thinking like a rich person, even if you don't feel rich or wealthy yet. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lissa. I'm a personal finance expert and a certified financial planner. My goal is to have more of you build wealth and live an abundant life and have more clarity and confidence when it comes to money. Now, full disclaimer before we dive in. When I say think like the 1%, I know that technically that top 1%, we're talking about multimillionaires and billionaires, but that's besides the point. What I'm really talking about is adopting the mindset of people who feel financially secure. People who approach money through a lens of opportunity, through ownership, and through long-term thinking. And the best part is you don't have to have millions of dollars to start thinking this way. These 7 mindset shifts can help you feel rich before you are. Shift number 1. Instead of DIY to save money, outsource to professionals. So a lot of people try to save money by doing everything themselves, but wealthy people outsource. They outsource to other people, they delegate to buy themselves some time back and to also avoid costly mistakes depending on what it is they are outsourcing. For example, according to the IRS, most people e-filed their tax returns in 2024. Now, out of all of those e-filed tax returns, 44% were self-prepared and 56% were prepared by a professional. That's actually higher than I expected, but still, there are a lot of people who are doing their own tax returns and who could potentially be leaving money on the table. The thing is, outsourcing is not limited to taxes or to financial professionals. Yes, oftentimes wealthy individuals hire professionals for things like taxes, like certified public accountants or lawyers when they need them, financial planners and financial advisors. When they hire professionals like this, it frees up their time and it avoids the potential for error, getting things wrong simply because they are not specialized experts like the professionals are. But beyond those financial professionals, wealthy people also often consider other types of help in their personal lives and their professional lives because they want to have freed up time and energy. Now, I know what you might be thinking.
Of course they outsource. They have money to outsource. Me, I cannot.
Well, you're right, at least about the part that wealthy people obviously have resources. But not all wealthy people started out that way. There are a ton of self-made millionaires and billionaires who at some point had to start thinking about how can they reclaim more of their time back. It wasn't just one day they were DIYing everything, not outsourcing a thing, and then boom, they have wealth and all of a sudden they are paying people to do everything for them. It is usually a long and drawn out transition. The more wealth you build, the more important it is to rely on professionals, and the more important it is to reclaim some of your time back and your energy back by outsourcing things and delegating things that you don't want to do yourself. Now, in terms of that transition from saving money and trying to DIY everything to outsourcing more things, there's no magic rule as to when you should start doing it. But I think that if you want to think like a rich person and a wealthy person, this is something you got to keep in mind as your income streams grow and as your wealth grows. If you have the capability to think about the next car you want to buy, or the clothes you want to buy when you get your next paycheck, or even that next amazing vacation you want to take, then all I'm saying is you can also start thinking about how you are going to outsource things the more money you make. The point is that you want to be strategic. It's not about outsourcing because you're lazy and you don't want to do anything yourself, but more so because your time and your peace of mind are worth way more than doing those things on your own to save some money. So here's a quick tip. If you can't afford to outsource anything right now, at least ask yourself, what is one thing that I could delegate or get help with, maybe it's free help, that could save me some time or make me some money back? And you can also ask yourself, all right, when I can afford it, or when I start including it in my budget and setting aside money for it, what things make the most sense to outsource? What do I want to outsource? It doesn't hurt to start thinking about this now, especially for you who have internalized messages growing up that you do have to do things yourself, that you shouldn't hire people to do things for you. I know I had a little bit of that from my upbringing in an immigrant family. So I know firsthand for me, it has taken years to get out of that type of thinking, that sometimes money is not the most important thing. Protecting my time and my energy is. So if I gotta pay a housekeeper or a virtual assistant to do some things for me, then I'm gonna go ahead and do that and spend that money if I have it. Now, the last thing on this point, I wanna point out a couple of things to be mindful of when you are considering outsourcing versus doing things yourself. Obviously, you should vet professionals, the person you're hiring, for skill and also trustworthiness. So don't just book anyone expecting that it's gonna be better than you doing it. You still have to vet people and make sure that you are hiring great people. And another thing is you still wanna keep oversight. Think of it as you are the CEO of your money. Even if you're gonna outsource some things and pay others to do the work, you still wanna oversee how much that is costing you so that you can continue to understand whether or not it is worth it for you to keep paying that. You have to make sure that your money is going to the right places. Shift number 2, how to think like the 1%. Instead of doing everything you're told, question everything. We grow up with a lot of one-size-fits-all advice. Go to college, get a stable job, buy a house, retire at 65. But wealthy people rarely just do what they are told, no questions asked. They ask, does this rule, does this guidance actually serve me? And for things like career and finances, wealthy people don't just assume that what worked for the last generation is gonna work for them. Am I telling you to not go to college, get a job, or buy a house? No, that is not the case. What I'm saying is don't do it all because that's what you were told is your dream, and that's what you were told makes you successful, and that's what you were told you have to do. At least question it and understand why you're doing what you're doing so that you can have a good quality of life. According to Pew Research, millennials and Gen Z are less likely to follow traditional financial milestones like home ownership or staying at one job for a long time. This is not always by choice, but it can also indicate that they are rethinking what success looks like. I think this is a great thing. This is asking bigger questions like, what lifestyle do I actually want? Is this job building towards my long-term vision, or is it just paying the bills for the next 30, 40 years until I retire? Or is it just a social milestone to try to impress others or make other people be proud of us and think we're successful? Wealthy people don't just follow one path that they were given, they build their own path. Or they just make sure that they are taking the right path. Having that mindset alone is gonna open up better financial outcomes for you because you're gonna stop making these default decisions, automatic decisions, and instead make intentional ones. So a couple of things to be mindful of as you start questioning things is not every rule is wrong. Not all traditional guidance or rule of thumb is gonna be wrong. A lot of traditional guidance is rooted in wisdom. It's worked for many years and it's worked for many people, so that's why it is the guidance that people give. So don't just go trying to break all the rules and do everything different for the sake of being different. And another thing to be mindful of is that questioning things doesn't mean you're rejecting things. It means that you're taking agency and you are the one that gets to choose. The third way to think like a wealthy person, like the 1%, is instead of staying comfortable, step out of your comfort zone. One of the biggest mindset traps that keeps people stuck financially and in other ways is staying where it feels safe. That could be staying in the job that you know and that you're comfortable in, staying in the city that you grew up in, having a no new friends policy where your circle of friends understand you, they get you, but maybe they don't challenge you to grow. Comfort is gonna feel like you have control and you're gonna be like,
Why would I want to be uncomfortable or put myself through discomfort?
what I wanna say is there are elements of comfort that you should embrace and welcome into your life. A big reason I want to continue building my wealth is because I know wealth and money can buy comfort. I don't have to wait in lines at a concert if I buy a VIP pass. I can have more legroom even though I'm 5'2" on a plane if I have more money. That's not the kind of comfort I'm talking about. I'm talking about how wealthy people want to grow. And growth can be uncomfortable until you get used to it. So here's an interesting stat. According to usafacts.org, even though the average tenure at jobs are decreasing, so people are staying at jobs shorter, 26.2% of American workers have been at their jobs for over 10 years. A lot of people don't leave their first role, let alone their industry, if their job or company wants to keep them. There's benefits to that. There's stability. And I think that's fine if you love what you do, but it also means that you could potentially be underpaid or underleveraged. If you don't stretch yourself or explore opportunities throughout your life and your career, you could be missing opportunities that you don't even know exist. So think about things like asking for a raise. You can stay at your job, but when's the last time you really asked for a raise and talked about what is the path to get to not just a couple $1,000s or a little bit of a bump because of inflation, but a legitimate big jump that's going to change your financial trajectory? Think about pivoting to a new field. Do you still love what you do? If you do, great. If you don't, it might be scary, but there are ways to shift into other things. What's the point of living your life doing something that you don't enjoy doing when there are now paths that can lead to you doing whatever you want to do? Moving is also scary. Now, I know that firsthand because I've lived in the same city for 20 years now. I moved to Los Angeles for college and I haven't left. But I am open to leaving. I'm open to moving when the right opportunity and time comes along. It can be out of your comfort zone to relocate yourself, to move to a city that might have more opportunity. Whatever it is, just know that people who build wealth usually get uncomfortable first. They know how to step out of their comfort zone. Now, if you want more personal case studies, I will tell you, I've always gotten new opportunities, new friendships, and even business relationships the times that I stepped outside of my comfort zone. So I have always been a lifelong learner. Every so often, I'll try to find a new skill to learn or a new class to take or a new hobby to pick up. For example, 8 years ago, I took a coding boot camp because I wanted to explore that as a career. And even though I don't code today, I ended up starting a business with one of my classmates from that class. And one of my other classmates in that same class was a bridesmaid at my wedding. Twice in my life, I have taken improv classes, which I wanted to do to help me with my speaking skills and thinking off the cuff. And 6 years ago, when I took these classes, I also made some lifelong friends. So I truly believe in the fact that when it comes to stepping out of your comfort zone, there are always opportunities and people that you can meet that are priceless that you wouldn't otherwise get if you didn't leave your comfort zone. Now, a few things to be mindful of. Not every leap is worth it. Growth does not equal chaos, and not every instance where you're going out of your comfort zone is going to reap the rewards. So be choosy and do your due diligence before you go on taking leaps out of your comfort zone. And another thing to keep in mind is if you are making a big life transition, make sure you plan for it financially. Have a plan and have a backup plan. Those plans will allow you the room to explore, to get out of your comfort zone, and to grow. Mindset shift number 4, how to think like the 1%. Instead of optimizing for price, optimize for value. Here's what I mean. Sometimes people try to chase the cheapest option of everything, whether that's health insurance or the cheapest vacuum or the cheapest food choices. A lot of times, chasing the cheapest option can save you money in the short term, but sometimes can cost you more long term. Wealthy people focus not so much on the price, the actual flat out absolute number, but instead they focus on ROI, return on investment. If I put some money into this thing, what value am I going to get back in return? And is that worth it? Here's a stat. According to a Google Ipsos poll, 43% of Americans actively seek out deals when shopping online. Nothing wrong with finding a good deal. Part of it is being a smart shopper. However, 42% of people say that they have regretted a sale purchase. And one common reason, according to studyfinds.org, is that the item felt less valuable than expected. So in terms of having a wealthy mindset about this, pay for things that give you a return. Whether that is great quality, higher performance, longevity, something that's going to last a long time, great customer support. Whatever those reasons are that you are purchasing something, look beyond just the price tag and understand what value are you getting by choosing this option over another. Now here's the thing, let me take a step back because I actually think that being frugal is a skill. Being frugal is not about being cheap. It's about getting the most ROI, the most bang for your buck. It's fake. So the mindset shift is about how do you optimize and start thinking about something in terms of value as opposed to looking at a price in a vacuum. Something to be mindful of, the word premium or something being marketed really well does not necessarily equate to value. You still have to do your due diligence and make sure that the thing you're purchasing has value and it can fulfill its promise of quality. So don't always assume that paying more money and buying the more expensive thing on the flip side is going to be more value. And another thing to be mindful of is avoid overspending that is disguised as investing in yourself. Paying more for this thing, the premium item, because it's an investment in yourself. Don't just take that for face value. Again, you have to dig in and make sure that when you spend your money, you are getting the most that you can get out of it. All right, we have 3 more to go on the list. Quick reminder, if you're enjoying this video, if you're getting something out of it, please don't forget to hit the like button and make sure you subscribe if you're not already. Mindset shift number 5. Instead of just focusing on your income, focus on ownership. I am guilty of this because for the longest time, I thought that success was how much my yearly salary is. I thought that would determine how wealthy I could become. And even though it's part of the equation, obviously you have to make money in order to build wealth, it is not the entire story. This is a very common saying, but it's true, so I'm gonna say it. But wealth is not what you earn, it is what you keep. So here's a stat. According to Pew Research, among homeowners in the US, home equity makes up a median of 45% of a person's net worth in 2021. The 1% is prioritizing ownership. How can they own more stocks, more businesses, more rental properties, other assets that are valuable, that can appreciate in value and also potentially bring them more money and more cash flow. Their priority is using money to make more money, and that is through ownership of assets. The opposite is a lot of people tend to prioritize consumerism. So ownership of items, maybe buying material things, new clothes, new stuff, but that stuff, even though you own it, doesn't actually provide financial value in your life. Even if it's a valuable item, unless you're gonna sell that item, it doesn't really grow your financial life in any way. So some things to be mindful of as you start to acquire more assets and own more things that can increase your net worth and the value that you hold. Just know that certain assets can be risky, they can be illiquid, so you should make it a point to continue to learn about investing and specific investment types before you dive right in. The mindset shift is that you want to start thinking about acquiring assets and not spending your money on liabilities. Mindset shift number 6, don't just think transactionally, but think about how can you invest in relationships. Wealth can literally multiply through networks and partnerships and to being connected with the right people. So there's this blog that I came across on LinkedIn where the blogger claims that up to 85% of jobs are filled through networking. But most people, unfortunately, only network reactively. For example, when job hunting, someone gets laid off or they think they're gonna get fired, then they start trying to proactively network. But by then, a lot of times it's too late. So do I think that you gotta be thinking about your career and networking all the time, 24/7? No, I think that would be tiring. And do I think you have to build hundreds or thousands of relationships? No, I think that would be disingenuous and that would take a lot of time and energy. But the thing I want you to think about is not when you're looking for a job, not when you need something from people. Now is the perfect time to build relationships and to maintain them. The wealthiest 1% of people nurture their relationships before they ever think about needing them. Think about mentorships, partnerships, peer groups, things that can lead to opportunities down the line. Something to be mindful of as you start to build your network and to invest in more relationships. Remember that networking is about giving value, not just asking for favors when you've not done anything for anyone. And something else to think about is authenticity. Authenticity matters so much. It is you being your true self, and hopefully that true self is a good person, a kind person, someone that attracts good energy, because people can read that and they can feel that. We are on to the last mindset shift on this particular list. If you want to think like the 1%, you have to play the long game. You can't think short term, you got to think longer term. We all know that for the majority of people, wealth is not built overnight. It compounds over years and decades if you can make a lot of small steps and smart moves. So according to eToro back in 2022, the average holding period for US equities, so stocks, was only 10 months. What that can show is that a lot of people are thinking short term. They invest and they want that money as soon as possible to be able to use that money. The 1% are not thinking about investing today so that they can get rich quick by tomorrow. They are planning years in advance, decades in advance, even generations in advance. Wealthy people invest in assets, like we've been talking about, ownership of things that have value and that have the potential to bring you even more value. They invest in skills, in personal development and professional development. They invest in their health, and they might invest in ventures or business that have the potential to grow over time. Now, as you start to think longer term and what you can be doing with your finances long term instead of short term, remember that there's not one size fits all when it comes to investing. This is where your financial education comes into play, where you get on the journey or continue your journey of learning more about investing and different types of investments. Or if we go back to the first item on the list, if you have a willingness to seek professional help from a financial planner or an advisor, that expertise can help you in areas that you might not know a lot about yet. All right, that's the list. Let me know in the comments, are you already thinking like a rich person, like the 1%, like the wealthy? And if not, that's okay, but are you ready to? Let's keep building wealth together. Until next time, peace out.